taller than the other guys.
Well, and the pictures that I always see are of them, wearing exactly the same thing. So people say, oh, look. But they didn't wear exactly the same thing, much longer than after they got popular. So it's always
after they
really
came to the U.S.,
grainy,
they exploded, and that kind of stopped.
It's really grainy, crappy pictures. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, yeah, see that one's Paul. And it's like, I don't know. They all have the exact same haircut. They all have dark hair. They're all wearing the same thing. That could be Paul, that could be Ringo, that could be anyone. I don't know who that is. Mm-hmm. So you can't just say, oh, look, that's that one, because they all look exactly the same. The photo's so grainy. They're wearing the same thing.
Well, and a lot of it is taken from like their Ed Sullivan appearance.
Yeah.
Which is videotape. It's not tape, it's film. Which is not that great a quality film.
Yeah. Of course
and
not.
It hasn't aged well.
Well, the other thing from that Ed Sullivan film that people talk about is the changes in Paul's performance demeanor, which is always so interesting to me because it's like, dude, yeah, they were like brand new to the stage. They had never really performed on that scale before, and I'm sure he was nervous. And then as they performed more and more, he refined himself.
Censors.
Yeah.
For the Sullivan Show, the censors would walk up and say, "Don't do this." I mean, there's famous stories about what they told. Have you ever seen? There's that gag video out there. I think it's an SNL thing about Elvis Presley on the Sullivan Show, and they said you can't shake your hips. It's too sexual.
Yeah.
And he went ahead and did it. And they put a black bar across his waist, which they did. And then he keeps shaking, and the bar keeps rising. He keeps trying to get taller until there's nothing but Elvis's chin and his eyes on the screen, and the whole rest of the screen
is
is
black.
Like that's
amazing.
But that is the extent that the censors went to. They did crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm sure that they were afraid to do anything.
You've heard that story about the Doors, right?
Oh, there's a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree that it's, they're not good reasons. You have more? I see your book out. You have more?
Yeah. No, the book didn't go away. There's still
Okay, so let's go there.
To throw on the fire for this.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
What?
So I think that where there's this whole thing of Paul being in an accident, and that's where this all started. But you do know
Paul was never in an accident.
Yes, he was. He was in a moped accident.
Okay, fine. Yes.
He was in a moped accident. That's how he chipped his tooth, and that's how he got the scar on his lip. But I think that is the kernel of, oh my God, Paul was in an accident. Where did that scar come from?
What actually happened, right? Okay, so a car that he owned was in a really serious accident, and he was in a moped accident, probably, within a year or so of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Who was driving the car that he owned?
His friend. I don't remember his name.
Was
no
he
one famous.
There's several friends.
No,
that were
there was no decapitation.
Hmm.
He crashed. He totaled the car, but he was like fine.
Oh,
well,
good.
that's for the Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
There is when you go on the internet, you will see a series of very iconic photos which show, I believe it's a Aston Martin. It's a sports car, and this thing is just ripped up. And I see it referenced all the time for this story. And I was
but that's a Princess Di car.
Well, but here's the thing. No, this is total 60s, sporty. I started Google image searching, and I love the fact that you can grab an image and look for other similars, and very quickly found out that there was indeed an accident in the December of 1965, which people then spun forward to this possible November 66 thing. And there is a friend of the band, a guy whose name was Tara Brown, and he was, he was a big guy, or not a big guy, he was semi-famous, and he was hanging around with the band doing stuff, and he was driving his car, and he had a woman in the car with him, and he swerved to avoid another car, and he careened through parked cars, and while it's said that he was going exceptionally fast, it killed him, and his head, he took severe damage to his skull, and it killed him. But he wasn't Paul. He looked nothing like Paul, but he was a friend of the Beatles. So this is, as with all these, it's a game of telephone.
Yeah.
A friend of the Beatles was in a car accident in a sports car, and then it doot. Paul is dead. So that's my thing, is that because I was confused when I read your stuff about it being the Mini, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, I guess I should have clarified. I'm realizing I didn't at this point. that story that we told in the beginning is the like Steve version of things when we talk
the
about
most
the,
embellished,
the most fantastical version of anything. That's what that is. Realistically,
it was the magical mystery tour.
Yeah, none of it happened. It didn't happen. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was actually I didn't even know that it grew from that kernel of truth. I thought somebody just made it up.
I really believe that somebody made it up.
They did. It was an amalgam of a lot of things.
Yeah, I think with a lot of these things, it's held together with spit and duct tape, and it just, I don't know how it survived
Or
this
just
long.
a heck of a lot of LSD.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that, no, actually, there's not a lot of things that have been held together by LSD, so I don't know.
Do you have any more stuff that we need to discuss?
Nothing that is really good good bits. The car and the friend were really, and the origin of the scar and the chipped tooth.
That it's not a different human being.
Right.
He got, like, people get those things.
Yeah.
There was actually somebody who said, Paul, you need to get your tooth fixed. It looks kind of bad. People are going to notice, but apparently it's, there was no nerves there, and he just didn't care. He never fixed it.
Yeah.
So I never got fixed.
Yeah.
A little super glue, I mean, but even though I don't believe that Paul died, there is a similar, more recent thing, which is Avril Lavigne.
No.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot. There's actually a lot of this stuff out
love
there
the
now,
Avril Lavigne
and it's
story.
not. It's not just. I mean, I love the Avril Lavigne thing. I do. There's also like the Beyonce was never pregnant thing. There's so many of these things out there that people are just like crazy,
obsessed.
I guess
we'll be talking about Avril Lavigne next week.
No,
we won't.
I'll just say the moral of the story is just like calm down.
Yeah.
Like take a step back and think about what you're saying.
Well, the thing about it is that if Paul truly is dead, well, they found a really good replacement, and who cares?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there
it's
you go.
It's amazing that they managed to find a replacement that looked like
and sounded
acted like and
could play the
sounded
bass.
like him.
Yeah.
And that could play the same instrument.
And could write.
Yeah.
Like the coincidence for that. The alignment of the stars.
That is.
And really realistically, to Joe's point, I mean, Fall, if it is Fall, has been Paul for longer than Paul ever really was.
Oh, hell yeah.
And at this point, he is Paul. That's who it is.
So what you're telling me is that the British monarchy knighted an impersonator.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time.
And
on that
Probably
note,
wouldn't.
And by the way, Fall probably deserved it, because he made many contributions to the band, apparently at least, after he was swapped in for Paul.
Yeah.
So I guess he deserves his knighthood.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, if you want to see any of the links of the research that we did, we'll try to include some that have pictures attached to them. You can find that information on thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook. We have a group and we have a page. I guess. I don't know. We have a Twitter. We're Thinking Sideways. We have a subreddit, which is Thinking Sideways. We have an email address, so you can email us just like literally whatever you want. I don't really care. That email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. You're probably listening to us on iTunes. If you are and you haven't already, subscribe and leave a comment and a rating. If you are listening to us on a streaming site and you can subscribe and leave a comment and a rating, do that as well. Side note on that, obviously, if you have some constructive criticism, please email us so we can have a dialogue about it. We're not trying to get out of bad reviews if you genuinely have a bad review, but also email us. Let us know. We don't have a chance to check all of our bad reviews. Sorry.
Yeah.
Not that there's like a million of them.
And there's nothing we can do in response.
Yeah, we can't have a discussion to find out really what's going on. Okay, and then also if you want to contribute to the show in a financial matter, there's, no obligation to. You can get merch. There's links to that on our website.
Cool mugs and t-shirts and stuff.
Yeah, totally, and stickers.
Yeah.
If you want to contribute one time, we do have a PayPal. There's a link to that on the website. If you want to do a recurring donation, that's awesome. That's our favorite. That's going to be on Patreon. That's patreon.com/thinkingsideways. And thanks to everybody who donates, and thanks to everybody who's considering donating. Yeah. And I think that's everything.
I think it is.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to, just get out of here.
Okay.
So I'm going to join a Beatles tribute band, and I'm going to be bald.
I think we ought to like start a Beatles tribute band. All we need, actually, we don't. We can do it with 3 because Paul's dead, right?
Yeah, except for
I'm not Ringo. I'm not Ringo.
No.
I'll be Ringo.
I'm George.
All right,
Okay.
Ringo.
Okay.
Let's get out of here.
All right. Bye, guys.
Love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Love you, yeah, yeah, yeah. A love like that, you know you should be glad.
Thinking sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply. What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hi there. Welcome again to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I am Joe, joined as always by
Devin.
and
Steve,
so you guys ready to tackle a really groovy mystery?
just one?
Yeah, no, actually it's 3.
Oh.
And actually, these aren't entirely mysteries. Well, the theme of this week's episode is places you don't want to go.
And I got to say, I don't want to go to any of these.
Yeah, they're scary places.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go to mine.
That's because you're weird. Well, okay, I can see why you'd want to go
Yeah.
there. But you're still
kinda
weird.
interesting. That's
Yeah.
true. I am weird.
No, actually, I do want to go to your place.
Oh, you do,
Not
right?
your house, but your scary place that
I've
you're
seen
going to
you've
talk
been to my
about.
house before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I've been there. I don't really want to go back.
I don't. Yeah.
Just kidding.
All kinds of yard work and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's just start talking about these unpleasant, scary places. My vote for the place to stay away from is the Nahanni Valley, which is in the Northwest Territories in Canada. That is on the northern part of Canada. It's just to the east of the Yukon Territories, which are just to the east of Alaska.
Yeah.
So it's well up there. It's way up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've heard estimates that as many as 44 people have known to have either disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances in this valley.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
It is way up in
It's
the wilds
some.
of Canada.
Yeah, there's bears
that's
and stuff.
some people.
Some.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah. Okay, on with our story. When the first European trappers and gold miners began to get into the area around the valley, they talked to the natives quite a bit and heard a lot of legends about it. The Indians said that they avoided traveling there because it was inhabited by evil spirits. They also thought that it was home to spirit creatures known as the Wahila, which is supposed to be kind of half wolf, half bear. And
Sounds like a really ugly critter.
yeah, I know, and that's one I would stay away from.
Yeah.
They also thought that the natives actually thought the Wahilas had mystical powers, like the ability to appear and disappear at will. Yeah, that'd be one scary critter.
It's a pretty handy little power
Yeah.
to have.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had it. The locals also had stories about a tribe called the Naha. They were this fierce mountain tribe that lived in and around the valley, and they would come pouring out of the mountains occasionally on slave raiding parties. On the lowlanders. And yet somehow, right about the time white people arrived, or a little before even, the entire tribe just disappeared. So,
That's unusual.
well, maybe they were wiped out by disease.
Well, there's a lot of reasons. And I know
Yeah.
we're going to get into some of that, but there's a lot of reasons why people will disappear. But it's just weird that it precludes the appearance of the white man.
Yeah.
It's just like Roanoke Colony, man.
Yeah.
A little bit.
So anyway, this is either a huge historical mystery or it's just the wilderness version of an urban legend. I'm not sure which.
Oh, so it's possible that they didn't ever exist. The Naha.
Yeah, I think it's possible. There's really no evidence that they did, no artifacts.
I see.
No,
Okay,
nothing.
got it. Yeah.
So who knows? But anyway, back to our story. As the Europeans began to come into the area, they looking for gold and furs and stuff like that. There were stories that were spread that there was gold in the Nahanni Valley. And so that's when the troubles began.
That's always when the trouble
I
begins.
know.
Yeah.
You saw Treasure of the Sierra Madre, written by D. Traven.
Yeah, I totally saw
Also,
that.
we just talked about gold being found last week.
No, I did. So.
Yeah, Joe's got a thing about stories that involve gold. Have you
I
noticed
know.
this recently?
What's he telling us?
I like gold. I'm hinting. I want gold bars for my birthday.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
that nice new patio out back is hiding something.
No, not that at all.
Got it. Okay.
Oh,
Nope.
no, don't. It was kind of a rush job, though. a couple of guys were on the lookout for gold. In 1906, the Nahanni Valley was pretty much untouched and unexplored, but a couple of brothers, Willie and Frank McLeod, decided they wanted to head up to the Yukon.
Willie and Frank.
Yeah, Willie and Frank.
Okay, I thought you said Willie Frank, as in it was first and middle name.
I thought I said Willie and Frank.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, so they wanted to go up to the Klondike, I guess, and they decided to go through the valley, and they persuaded another guy named Bobby Weir to go along with them. So they headed up the Nahanni River in spring 1906, and they were never seen alive again.
All three?
Yeah, all three. The McLeod brothers' bodies were eventually found about 2 years later, but their heads were gone.
What?
Yeah, they had been decapitated. I'm not sure exactly what kind of shape their bodies were in. In some accounts I've heard they were just skeletons. Which I think after 2 years, I don't know how much would be left.
Well,
Skeletons.
that depends on when they died. If they died as soon as they got there, then yes, 2 years would have gone by.
Yeah,
but if they lived for a year or
so,
there might have been remains other than just
very
a skeleton.
Small after a year
I don't
in
know,
a wilderness
it's
like
pretty,
that.
It's pretty cold though up
Yeah.
there. It's not as if they're in a tropical jungle where it's nothing but bugs and other critters.
Yeah, but you've got scavengers looking for a warm, easy meal.
Yeah,
It's true.
there are probably a lot of that going on.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say they were probably skeletons, but whatever. But the key point here is their heads were gone.
Okay.
Yeah, and as to the other guy, Bobby Weir, apparently a native hunting party found a decomposed body a year later, about half a mile away from that spot where the brothers were found. But it's not. It apparently wasn't. I don't even know how they really identified the brothers. Maybe through their possessions.
That's the only thing I can think
Yeah,
of.
obviously not their fingerprints.
Or their dental records.
Yeah.
Dental records weren't really a thing.
Also,
Yeah.
they never found their heads, so
Yeah, that
Good
makes
point.
it kind of hard.
it's hard to do dental records with no dentist.
Head.
No
Just
teeth.
let's say head.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Yeah. And so that was not the end of it. A guy named Martin Jorgensen, who was a prospector, was found headless in 1917 outside the burnt remains of his cabin along the Flat River. In other versions, he was found inside the cabin. And so it was right about this time that the nickname of Headless Valley, or also the Valley of the Headless Men, both began to append itself to the Nahanni Valley.
For good reason, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And then a little time went by. People were disappearing, of course, at a steady rate. In 1945, a miner from Ontario was found in his sleeping bag in the Valley of the Headless Men, with, again, his head missing. And, oh, by the way, none of the heads that disappeared were ever found.
Well, they never are in Highlander either.
Yeah. I
Nobody else has made that connection? Come
No.
on.
know.
This valley is obviously where the Highlanders are going.
Oh,
Oh, it could be it. And that's
that makes
It's
sense.
the quickening.
The Yukon, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Makes sense. Let's see. There were other mysterious deaths that didn't involve beheading. In one case, the body of a trapper named John O'Brien was found sitting in his camp, frozen solid next to his campfire, with a box of matches in his hand.
I
Well, I
also
guess-
heard in a version that it appeared that the fire had been burning amazingly hot at one point, and so he must have flash frozen. Did you come across that
Oh
version?
yeah, I saw that. I saw that out there, and I don't.
That doesn't make any sense.
I couldn't find any support for that. I think he probably actually fell in the river and was had really bad exposure and was shaking like a leaf and trying to get a fire lit and just didn't quite
It
succeed.
failed.
Yeah, that's probably what I think. Or somebody murdered him.
But he still had his head.
He still had his head.
Got
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
Kept his head about him.
yeah.
Haha.
So here's some theories about this place and why it became this place of evil headlessness. Some people thought that there might be some sort of mad trapper or murderous hermit running around the Nahanni Valley.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, remember Albert Johnson?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
mad trapper of Rat River? Yeah. There's a guy named Dick North who wrote a book about him, and North speculated that Johnson might have passed through the valley in the years prior to his move to Rat River, and thinks Johnson might be responsible for at least some of the murders. But of course, he has no evidence for that. And of course, Johnson died in 1932, so he obviously couldn't have carried out the 1945 beheading.
Right.
No.
Yeah. And
That doesn't work at all.
And I think he was too young to have murdered the McLeod brothers in 1906.
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was in his 40s when he died, is that right?
They weren't really sure. I think
Johnson, I mean?
Johnson, I think they were thinking maybe right around 40.
Yeah, that would make him
Yeah.
a child when the first murders occurred.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Yeah, okay. Our next theory is, and some people actually believe this, the natives mostly, some thought that it was a remnant of the missing Naha tribe, so maybe they didn't actually completely disappear, they're just hiding. So they're lurking in the valley, and then so they did it.
Tell me you read up on how this gets tied into the Hollow Earth theory.
Oh, the Hollow Earth theory. I didn't... I've heard of the Hollow Earth theory. I wasn't really going to include this whole thing with the Hollow Earth theory, but yeah, there is a theory out there among some people that the Earth is hollow,
Yes.
and that the entrance is in this valley,
Yes.
which is why if you get too close to finding that entrance to the Hollow Earth, then you got to be off.
You know what it
Yeah.
also makes me think of? This whole the entrance to where this tribe is living, and I don't think Devin's going to know this, but you might remember this. There was a old comet called Turok, Son of Stone. Do you remember that at all?
That sounds vaguely familiar. I don't think I remember seeing that. I don't think I ever read those.
Well, yeah, it's been on and off for 50, 60 years, but it was written as two Indian men, or it was an Indian man, an American Indian man, and a American Indian boy find a cave, go into the system, and come into a world where dinosaurs are still about. This basically kind of travel between the two, but that's exactly what it made me think of, is that they're going into this paradise and then they're protecting the entrance of paradise for all these interlopers who are going to come in and destroy it on them.
I always like it when you're like, Devin's too young to know this totally nerdy reference that
You
he
know Turok?
probably totally knows about.
You do?
Yes.
You just watched the animated version, didn't you?
No. Let's keep going.
Okay, all right. Okay, next theory. The Dene tribe, they're the ones who lived outside the valley and didn't prefer not to go into the valley. They had a theory that it was the Nukluk.
Nukluk?
The Nukluk, yeah.
Okay, what the
Which
heck is a Nukluk?
Yeah, Nukluk is a word that translates as man of the bush. All the Arctic tribes knew of the Nukluk, and they all were afraid of the Nukluk. Apparently, what they are is they're short, sort of Neanderthal, like sort of human, but with more fur. And they carry stone weapons like stone clubs and such things, and they're very violent. It's said that they used to roam the whole of the Arctic Circle, and that as of the time of our story, their numbers were believed to have been reduced enough that they were all maybe hanging out in the Nahanni Valley.
They're like a hairy ogre or something? Is that what that is?
No, obviously the Morlocks, right?
Yeah, from the Time Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would make sense too.
that could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. These guys apparently were some sort of just left behind branch of humanity, perhaps.
This is one of those things, I don't want to railroad sidetrack this at all, but this is one of those things that makes me contemplate how aware we are as humans of our past and how much leftover there is and mother civilization and going down a rabbit hole. But the fact that, native indigenous people very often refer to this thing that we know now definitely existed and predated us. And they always have that as a remnant somehow of a memory.
Well, they live they live literally on the ground. They're in the middle of it all the time, and they're passing that history. Whereas we, as a society, the white man, from what I can understand, hasn't explored this area other than aerial photography. We sent a plane over. We took a picture. That's it.
Yeah.
There's tons we don't know.
Yeah, I just mean in terms of having this kind of mythical thing.
Oh, you're talking not just this particular valley.
Yeah, just
I gotcha.
in general.
Got it.
The Nukluk.
Yeah, I'm always astounded at when you hear stories of that.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
There are actually a few European men who've seen these critters. In 1964, a trapper named John Baptist was with some companions in the valley, and they came across a strange man-like creature about 5 feet tall. It had long bushy hair and beard, hairy chest and back, and the hair was not quite so thick on the arms and legs. And yeah, he took the Nukluk took off. Baptist and his friends tracked it for a while, and the entire time they heard strange whistling calls in the brush around them. And members of the Dene tribe later explained what that whistling meant. That's how the Nukluk communicated when they were on the hunt. So these guys thought they were tracking the nucleus, but apparently a group of them were tracking these guys.
Yeah.
The hunter becomes the hunted.
Yeah.
Just like a group of velociraptors.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I know. There was another nucleus sighting in 1964 by some kid whose name has not been passed down through memory. So I don't know. I don't know that these things are actually real, but it sounds like it might not be beyond the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a hard one to say.
Yeah.
'Cause we don't have anything that says they don't exist. That's the hard part.
Yeah. So I believe in their existence maybe a little bit more than the Naha tribe. So our next theory, the Wahila. Remember the Wahila, that wolf-bear hybrid?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the ugly dog.
Yeah. So it could have been the Wahila, except I don't really believe in the Wahila.
The Wahila, you know what the Wahila sounds like to me is kind of like that hairless bear they saw. Do you remember that bear, the like sun bear or something that was roaming around? Maybe it was a grizzly bear that was like really, really sick, and so it didn't have any hair on it, and people were taking pictures of it, and they were like, "What is this creature?" This just happened like a few months ago.
Oh, really?
Do you not remember this?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Poor
Well,
bear.
Our listeners will know.
No, what I was just going to say is that, I mean, critters that are in states of distress tend to look really weird to us. Remember the Montauk creature a couple of years back?
Yeah.
That turned out to be a pig?
Yeah.
But it was washed up in the ocean and all beat up, and it looks like something completely different. But
Yeah.
I could see how a very
this-
sick animal, like say mange or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this bear looked like a brand new animal that nobody had ever seen before,
Huh.
and they finally tranquilized it, and they were like, "Oh crap, it's a really, really sick bear."
So
They
they
caught it and treated it and released it, and it looks totally normal again.
Oh, good for the bear.
Anyways,
Yeah. Well, okay, so much for the Wahila. Our next theory is that maybe these incidents were just unrelated. I mean, it's in a really rugged environment with bears and wolverines and stuff like that.
I'm inclined to go with this one, just so you
Yeah.
know.
is it
Yeah.
because it's reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
fine.
I realize nobody can see me nodding my head.
Boo.
Yeah, but
Boring.
yeah. In the case of the McLeod brothers, Bobby Weir's body was not found with him, so maybe he killed them and then took off himself. And
Maybe
then
they did
just
strike
disappeared.
gold.
Yeah, and they got a whole bunch of gold, and then Bobby killed him and took off. And the remains that were found a half mile away may or may not have been his remains. And maybe the McLeods died from disease and the cold, and Weir left to get help, just to save himself, and he just died somewhere along the way. It's just really, really hard to say. As for the skulls, I mean, if you're laying there in the brush for a couple of years, an animal might actually just come and chew your head off and carry it away.
We've talked about this many, many times about how far bones will travel from
yeah.
the initial site of death.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
mean,
bottom line,
miles.
I think this is a remote, inhospitable place, and the odds of dying from a cold accidents, animal attacks, because you can't just call 911 an emergency. You're just out of luck. And if you do something as routine in our society as breaking a leg, well, that's it for you.
There it's
That's
a,
right.
okay, well, it's going to be a 3-month hike to get to the doctor.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
But on the other hand, last theory, it is interesting. The deaths occurred with the beheadings and everything within a span of about 40 years. And in more recent years, people have visited the valley and nobody's lost their head. So it's possible the beheadings and the murders were done by one person.
Yeah.
It really is possible. So, in 40 years, that's not an unnaturally long lifespan. Obviously, you're not going to start killing people until you're at least, 15 or 18, whatever the legal age is in Canada. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But and it's also possible if it was some serial killer, real mad trapper kind of lunatic. It turns out that the Valley of the Headless Men has a lot of limestone caves in it, so a lot of places to hide bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so who knows? Maybe one of these days, somebody will be exploring a cave and make a really ghastly find. And
Find a little altar of skulls or something.
That would be really.
Throne of them.
Yeah,
Wasn't that what
throne of
Conan
skulls.
sat on in the first Conan movie? He had a throne of skulls.
No, I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen that.
I know.
Yeah.
I swear it was a throne of skulls. Maybe it was in the comic.
Could have been. Yeah, I don't know. So that's it. So the Valley of the Headless Men. Don't go there, kids.
Yeah, don't.
right,
You
so-
guys want to talk about my place that I kind of want to go?
No, it's depressing.
Yeah.
It is
No, it's really
depressing.
depressing.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the Aokigahara Forest, which is also known as the Japanese Suicide Forest.
Cheerful place.
So if that is the sort of thing that disturbs you, skip ahead
15, 20.
15, 20-ish minutes. sorry, everyone. We're not going to call it that. It's often referred to as the Sea of Trees, which in Japanese can be said as the Jukai, which is how a lot of people refer to this forest. So we're going to go ahead and just refer to it as that.
Okay.
Let's pretend I didn't already tell you that it's a suicide forest. Because it's a beautiful, lush forest, the kind that you would see like in a Miyazaki film, kind of. It's an idyllic 14 square miles at the foot of Mount Fuji, and it is the second most popular place in the world to commit suicide. The first is the Golden Gate Bridge.
Okay.
Numbers vary, but reportedly anywhere between 10 and 100 people kill themselves in the Jukai every year. In 2010, there were 57 confirmed suicides. In 2002, the number of confirmed suicides was 78. And I say confirmed because we don't have a way of knowing for sure.
Why?
In 2003, after a rumored 105 confirmed suicides, the government decided maybe telling everybody how many people killed themselves in this forest is a bad idea.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that was to stop it from attracting other people to go there to do it.
I think that was definitely part of it. Part of it was to stop this kind of cycle. Another part of it was it is a tourist attraction. There's a really famous ice cave there. There's a couple really famous other caves. There's a wind cave and a bunch of other really beautiful stuff.
Go look at the photos of the caves. They're fantastic.
Yeah, you have to Google specific things in regards to this one.
Yeah.
If you just Google the forest, it'll just kind of show you some pictures of a really beautiful place. But they were trying to nip the whole everybody go kill yourself there thing in the bud, but also not scare tourists away.
Yeah, it makes sense. Kind of like in Jaws.
Yeah.
This show is full of so many weird references today.
So in addition to the kind of confirmed numbers, I don't know how they necessarily can confirm what happened in this past year versus not, but the local government does conduct annual searches for bodies, and with the forest being what it is, it's hard to know if the bodies are older or younger or...
Yeah, maybe they got missed in last year's search.
It's always... It's an incredibly lush forest. It's really easy to get lost. It's hard to tell. It's also frozen half of the year or more, so it's possible that bodies could freeze in a non-decomposed state for 6, 8, 12 almost months. And then they have a warm spell, it starts to decompose, it freezes again. It's hard.
Makes dating things difficult.
Yeah, and frankly, I think sometimes they just don't even try. Because that's a lot of bodies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
And it's a very small group that has to deal with it.
Yeah, it is. In the name of prevention, not only are there large signs at every trailhead urging people to seek help, but workers also place signs as they search for the bodies to remind people that there's something to live for, just kind of sporadically around the forest.
So are there just hundreds and hundreds of these signs all around the forest?
There are a bunch of them, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the big signs is loosely translated to kind of say, quote, "Let's think once more about the life you were given, your parents, your brothers and sisters and children. Don't suffer alone. First, please contact somebody." And then it has a suicide hotline number on the bottom of it.
It's funny to me. I mean, I've seen a lot of, you see those signs on bridges and stuff here about, to encourage people to get help when they're going to jump. But
they just say suicide counseling, this phone number.
Well, no, I've seen some different signs, but what I crack up about this is this kind of plays on that cultural bend of your family, which is very important in Japanese society. It's actually really smart. I read it, I was like, oh, whoever wrote that really knew what they were doing when they put this together.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting how intelligent they've been about trying to prevent suicide in this forest.
It's just a popular thing to do over there.
Kill yourself?
Yeah, and the suicide in Japan is a lot higher than it is over here.
That's true. If you haven't already, you should definitely creep yourself out by Googling Jukai and quote